Bulavinaka, welcome to another episode of Let Me Pod You with Andy Blake. My name is Andy Blake, obviously, and I'm excited because today I have a very special guest who's not only influential, but is a colleague of mine here at Resonance Media. Now, my guest today is Jonathan Lord, and in this episode of Let Me Pod You, he gets to share his journey and his story for the first time as a survivor of rheumatic heart disease. Jonathan, welcome to Let Me Pod You. Now, before we dive in, tell us how you're feeling today.
I'm feeling nervous.
Don't be nervous.
No, but excited.
Yeah.
Excited to share my story.
Great. And thank you so much for the courage that you have and for accepting my invitation to come on to the podcast and to talk about your journey, because you haven't really shared what you're going to share on the podcast today. Is that correct?
Yes.
So to start this, how would your closest friends and family describe you in 3 words?
That's easy. Handsome.
Oh, okay.
Handsome,
Talkative.
talkative, and loving.
That's great. The loving is such a great quality to have, because nowadays, especially in the society that we live in, we need lots of love. So, ladies, if you are looking for a potential husband, Jonathan is available.
Crazy.
Okay, let's go back to little Jonathan at Salvation Army, Tiny Tots.
Yes.
What was he like? Shy, outgoing, and what did you dream of becoming back then?
When I was in kindergarten, I thought I was the main character of the story, because I had a punk, and I used to come in.
Punk is in a punk hairstyle?
Yeah. And I used to be fascinated with Eminem and Tupac and rappers. So I used to come with hoodie, chain,
right,
and all this stuff. So
right.
I thought I was the it.
You were the cool Tiny Tot.
Yes.
At Salvation Army Tiny Tots.
Yes.
So where is this currently located?
So Salvation Army Tiny Tots, there's 2. There's one in Nasinu, just past the Nasinu fire station.
Yes.
But the one I went to is in McGregor Road. It's at the Salvation Army Suva Central Core, and it's at the back. So that's where I started education.
Interesting. Now, you stepped into leadership early, from being a prefect at St. Agnes to student council at Marist Brothers High School. What drew you to leadership, and how did those roles shape the person that you are today?
Well, I never saw myself as a leader. I think my grandmother always told me that I had leadership potential. But because I just wanted to be, in the friend group, I just wanted to be out there. I never thought I had leadership qualities. But when I was given the prefect badge, my first prefect badge in year 7 at St. Agnes Primary School, and then made me realize that this is something I love to do, is leading. And at the beginning, my leadership was leading from the front.
Yeah.
So people listen to me, I give the order, you follow. But then over the years, as I grew in leadership, I started to find out that a good leader is one that leads from the back.
Right.
And ensures that everyone he's leading he's pushing them forward to reach their full potential. And one of my good examples for leadership, apart from my local leaders, which is Ratu Kamise Semara and
so these are inspirational leaders that you look up to.
Leaders I have. One that I hold close to my heart is Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect. I wouldn't say I'm perfect.
No one is perfect.
No one is perfect.
No one is perfect.
But Jesus, in the sense, he had servant leadership, and that's what I learned growing up, is he never stood on a pedestal and ordered people. he would just be amongst the people, and so that's the leadership I cling to.
Right. Do you think that with these qualities and I guess sort of like yearning for leadership in your life, do you ever see yourself one day being in politics?
Oh, of course. From I think earliest Form 3, year 9 is what we call it now. One favorite channel I would love to watch on Walesi is the Parliament channel.
Right.
I like to watch how Parliament sitting is conducted, how the speaker carries himself out, how MPs argue,
Yeah.
how resolutions are made.
As in, you mean debate?
Yeah. And, well, I wouldn't say that for our Fiji Parliament. It's more of an argument than debate. But anyways, that's
Yeah.
so I saw myself one day being in politics, and I worked towards that. But yeah, I'm very...
Any particular sort of like portfolio in government that you would be more swayed towards? Like if you had to get into Fiji politics?
So to get into Fiji politics, the strategy I've picked out is to get into opposition first. And so because from opposition, you can hold the government accountable for things they are discussing in parliament.
Yeah.
And that's where I would build my platform and then soon join a party and get into government. But then the long-term goal here is to be prime minister.
Great.
So that's a political aspiration I have.
Yeah, that is great. Can you just tell our viewers what province you come from again?
So I am from Dakoivuna Wainimbuka Tailevu with maternal links to Vanuandina Toktoka Tailevu.
And you know, if you know me personally, like I'm so pro Tailevu because I love my province. I'm so proud to come from no sorry town, and so anyone that comes from my town or my province, I'm always putting them in the spotlight. So I would be so proud if you became prime minister, because we've had a former prime minister, I believe, from I think when was the Honorable Frank Bainimarama? He's from Cuba in Tailevu, so I've only known him as a Tailevu leader from
16 years
right.
government.
Yeah,
That's
and so that'll be good to have another Tailevu leader. Now, being deputy head boy at Maris Brothers High School twice comes with challenges.
Yes.
What was one defining moment that tested your leadership?
I think one defining moment would be having to choose between students' view and the teacher's perspective. Because when I got into leadership, learning this, being inducted a leader, I knew I wasn't being inducted a leader for the teachers only, but it was for the students. And so majority of the time was the students' voices I wanted to hear, is the students' voices that I wanted to lift up so that teachers heard them. Because one thing I saw in education is that some of the students are always pushed down.
Right.
And that's something I wanted to change, is that there are different ways in which you can approach an issue or situation. And it's not always pushing the student aside because you're just irritated with them. And so that's one thing. So it was more for the student's point of view. And there was the challenge there where I had to lose some of the benefits of being a leader because I was more for the students than the teachers. But that didn't stop me. I was always... always there for my brothers when they needed me the most.
Right. And so when you got selected as deputy head boy for the first year, how did that make you feel? Like, were you excited? Were you expecting to be selected as deputy head boy? How did that start? Because I understand from my high school days, you would normally be a prefect first, and then as you progress through the curriculum, you get selected as deputy head boy or girl, head boy and head girl.
Because Maris Brothers High School, there are challenges and ways you have to follow in order to get to that stage. And so because I wasn't elected as a form captain my years at Maris Brothers High School, the last resort, because I was so into the leadership from primary schools, year 7, year 8, I wanted more leadership going into high school. And so what I did is I joined student council.
Right.
Because the student council of Maris, we are practically the council that runs everything in the background. And so when the students have an issue or something they want to do, like a concert or a fun day, they hand it over to the student council reps, and we raise it in the council meeting.
Right.
And so that's one way I served my school. And it's just, being the reinforcer, secret reinforcer in the background, pushing the form captain, saying, no, this is how you do it. This is another way you can do this.
Yeah.
Or I think you need to use this and stuff like that. So that's how I built my leadership in high school.
Great. So I guess maybe in 10 years' time, I can be looking back at this episode and saying I interviewed the next Prime Minister of Fiji.
Hope.
Faithfully.
Yes.
With that being said, we'll take a short break. We'll just hear a word from our sponsors. Fill up your cups of teas. If you're in fill up your cups of warusi. And we'll see you shortly after this break. So, Jonathan, you've lived with rheumatic heart disease, RHD, for as long as you can remember. What was it like navigating school, leadership, and personal growth while managing your health? Before you answer that question, for our viewers that don't understand what rheumatic heart disease is, can you just inform our viewers what that is?
Okay, sure. So I've had rheumatic heart disease, or RHD, people would say, for 19 years now. And rheumatic heart disease is a disease that affects the heart. And so it basically is when the valves are permanently damaged. And it's caused by rheumatic fever. So it's acute rheumatic fever. That's the first stage. And then you go into RHD. So rheumatic heart disease.
And so off camera, I remember when we were talking about rheumatic heart disease, because I was kind of curious as to how you got it. Like, I presume that, you would have been born with it, but you were saying that you get it through like a flu.
Yes.
Flu-like symptoms, and then it sort of develops into RHD. Is that correct?
It's caused by strep germs, and from strep germs, this is just germs that fly in the air, so something similar to COVID-19. And so this is germs that are associated with animals, not wearing shoes when you're walking around, those kind of germs. And when it gets into immune system, you start having a flu.
Okay.
And the thing is, most people, when they get the flu, they just assume it's a flu. They're just coughing and running nose, it will go away.
Right.
But sometimes it can mean much more. And so that's how I contracted RHD. I didn't go through the fever period. When I went to the doctors, I just went to get checked for a normal flu because I had a bad cough and I had running nose and stuff like that. And then I started to get... So RHD also not only affects the heart, it affects the skin, the joints, and your brain. And so when I was sick, then I started to get a rash on my arm, and I used to scratch. And so we went to the doctors and got checked. And so when the doctor was checking my breathing, the doctor said, I hear a murmur. And so I went for echo scan, and that's how they found out that I had RHD. And it was past the mild and moderate and severe categories, and I was past severe. So even if they conducted the surgery to put a mechanical valve, there's a 50-50 chance that I would survive the surgery even if it was successful. And so that's basically RHD.
Okay, so that's what RHD is. Yeah. So going back to my earlier question, so what was it like navigating school, leadership and personal growth while managing RHD?
So like every other new RHD patient, when they contract RHD, you feel alone. Because when you contract it, there's there's a support group that can help you through this journey and stuff like that. And so I think for the first 16 years, it was just me alone. with my family, and we never knew that we had a network of other RHD patients that we could reach out to. So it was a struggle at a young age, because I have uncles that play sports. They play rugby.
Yeah, your uncles, the Vatumbo brothers, were
Vatumbo
very well
brothers.
known in Fiji for
And
rugby.
my mom's sisters all played sports. My father played sports in high school. His brothers as well. But then at 7 years old, to be told that you have RHD, these are certain things you can't do. You can't have excessive dairy products. You can't play sports, stuff like that. I was kind of at the low point because I didn't know what else to do. And for the beginning stages, I felt like a disappointment to my family because everyone excels at sports, and here I am, this kid that has a heart disease and you can't play sports. And I loved watching rugby. I loved playing rugby just as a sporting on sports day at primary school.
Yeah.
But then to have that, and you can't play contact sports and stuff like that. So I just pushed myself back. So
did it ever occur to you that you know how individuals, and I've always said this, and I think I've mentioned this on like my previous podcast recordings with some of my guests, that every one of us are born with unique gifts.
Yeah.
Did it not occur to you that like maybe like you were not gifted in sport because you were gifted in leadership, and that maybe you did not see that at the time?
Yeah, at the time. But then through the years, I saw that, because I had the understanding that extracurricular activity is just sports. But then coming into high school and finding out, no, extracurricular activity is activities apart from school.
Right.
And so that's where I said, no, I can be a part of clubs and stuff like this that create advocacy and awareness, and I can be a part of that, and that can be my extracurricular activity.
That's great. I
Yeah.
believe that was sort of like a really great pathway that you chose and found your calling, I believe. Yeah. So were there moments where you felt like giving up, and what kept you going?
Yeah. So when I came into Maras Brothers High School in 2020, we were called the COVID-19 babies.
Right.
Because that was the first wave of COVID-19 in Fiji. But towards the end, when we were having our annual examination, and this is the last examination of the year, which defines whether you go up into the next form or not, I got very sick. And so I had to come in and out of school, and teachers didn't really understand that I had heart condition.
Right.
And this is basically why we're trying to create awareness and advocacy, because people don't know what RHD is. But at the time, they didn't understand that I had heart disease and I needed medical attention. And so I would be in and out of school, and it came to the point where I sat for my first paper and I missed the rest. It's because I went really sick to the point where I couldn't walk.
Wow.
And
these are all you're telling me these are part of the symptoms of having RHD.
And so again, for RHD, it also involves your teeth. So when you go to a dentist, you must first go and see your doctors for medical attention first. They give you medication. They advise you, okay, you can go to the dentist now and stuff like that. And so I did all that, and I had one of my back tooth was irritating me, and I wanted it pulled out. I went to the doctors. They gave me all the relevant medication and stuff like that. The procedures, I went, got my tooth pulled out. 1 week before the exam, I was okay. I sat for the exam, and that's when it hit me. I had, like I said, couldn't walk. I had to be carried to the toilet and the bathroom. I had severe migraines. Vomiting to the point where I started vomiting blood.
Wow.
Even when I drank water, I would vomit it out, because that's how bad the bacteria from my gum that got into my bloodstream rejected anything coming in. There's food, fluids, even medication. And so I just vomited out.
Wow, that sounds so,
And so I was
intense.
I was really sick. I was so thin. I think I was like that for about 3 months. And in the last stages, I just looked like a skeleton, because you just could see the bones. and to the point where the doctors didn't know what to do. 'Cause I was overdosed with medication. Doctors just coming, CT scans and stuff like that. They couldn't find what was wrong. And yeah, so I was just sick. It got to the point where the doctors had to inform my family that there's nothing else we can do. And God willingly, he survives until the end of the week. Right down to that point. And at that stage, I didn't know what to do. I was just fed up with all this stuff. I just prayed and I said, God, if this is what you want, then okay.
Yeah.
I trust you. I have faith in you.
Yeah.
You know, the road may not look clear, but that's faith. Is faith believing in something, believing in God to do the impossible.
Amen.
And so it's just that was the challenges to RHD. That was the only time where I was at the lowest point.
But your faith is what kept you going on, and just that relationship that you talked about, having it with God and praying. That is very good. That is a message for like any young individuals that are watching this podcast, regardless of what issues or problems that you are facing right now. Like I've mentioned it in my podcast and some of my previous guests, and now Jonathan is talking about it. It's always putting God first, because you will always know that when you put God first, like your journey and in life, whether it may be difficult at times, you'll always get through it with the grace of God.
Yeah, I've always told my friends as well, it's like sometimes they come with so much issues and they don't know what to do. They'll come to me and they talk to me, and I just tell them, you see, there's certain things in life that God's gonna take you through, that it's not all good, but that's the whole point about following God, is you are ready to expect the unexpected. But then the whole point about that is God will take you out of that soon, and all of those bad things you've gone through is a building block. It's just a learning step to your next best season.
Yeah.
So that's just been the challenge and the triumph with RHD.
Yeah, wow. You are full of wisdom, my friend. Now, you turned your personal battle into advocacy.
Yes.
Can you share the moment when you realized you wanted to be a voice for others with RHD?
It's a funny story because when I came after that whole scene, that whole episode of my life, got out, got better and stuff like that, I then realized I want to create a heart foundation that just helps and challenges and champions other RHD patients out there to keep striving, to don't give up, and just be a voice for those that can't speak about the challenges they're going through. Because the issues and stuff I've gone through, I don't want other young cardiovascular disease patients to go through the same thing. And so that was the whole idea behind the foundation. But then when I was in year 11.
What year was this?
This was, so I left high school 2022.
Right.
I came to, it was the second day of the Nationals athletics meet, which is the Coca-Cola Games.
Yeah.
And I came in early in the morning because it was still a school day. It was a Friday.
Yeah.
We were still on duty, the prefects.
Yeah.
So when I came in, I saw this tent and it said Q Kids, but then I saw a heart. And I wanted to know more about why do we have a tent here that says Q Kids and there's a heart. And so I asked one of the teachers next to me, I said, "Ma'am, what is this for?" He said, "Oh, this is the team with RHD. They come to create awareness."
Wow.
And I said, "Okay." So I walked up, and this lady, which I can now say is one of my good friends, she's the coordinator of Heart Heroes Fiji. It's a heart foundation. Her name is Erini Tokorua.
Yes.
And so I came and I created the conversation with her, and I told her my story. And from there is where I grew the eagerness to create awareness, advocacy, using this platform. So in the same year, in September 29th is always International Heart Day, World Heart Day. And I was given the opportunity to be a guest speaker at the National World Heart Day celebration in Civic Center. And so it all started from there.
Wow. Congratulations. And I'm so privileged to have you on the podcast, especially on this episode.
Thank you.
I know you were mentioning earlier that you were a bit nervous talking to me, and I was explaining to you, this is such a perfect platform to tell your story and to also be an advocate, and you are doing a tremendous job. So I'm sure that your colleagues are going to be so proud of you. Now, you mentioned about Heart Heroes Fiji, right?
Yeah.
Co-founding that at such a young age is incredible.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part about starting this initiative, and what impact have you seen so far?
Well, all the credit goes to the behind the scenes team. So this is Erini and her team setting it up. But then the idea came from, because one day I just started a conversation. I said, we don't have a heart foundation in Fiji. And so if we want to create more awareness and advocacy, I think we need to start somewhere. And so it started from there, and it grew. And in 2024, just the eve of my first paper for the Fiji Year 12 certificate examination, we launched Heart Heroes Fiji. And so the main aim about Heart Heroes Fiji, just to break it down, is just to create a safe space and create awareness for patients journeying with RHD. And so, I attended. I'm proud to be a national heart hero, creating awareness everywhere I go. Last year, I was privileged to go and be a guest speaker at the Navua World Heart Day celebration. Yeah, and just advocacy from there.
And you also have one coming up, which I'm sure you would have done by the time the podcast would have aired. And this is the one in Tavua?
Yes, the peer support group program.
Right.
And so this is just championing people of different ages on educating them on heart disease, different heart disease, how to tackle the issue, how to talk to someone that's going through the first stages of heart disease, and just vibing off each other and just encouraging them to don't give up. Over time this will pass. It's just a phase. Keep moving. And so that's happening next week. So I'm privileged to be a part of that. But other than that, it's just creating awareness. I do support group programs, youth support group programs. So where other heart patients come, or people that know heart patients, they just come and we talk about RHD, their point of view, my point of view, and we just have games and we just socialize, just creating a safe space.
That is so interesting. Like, you've really opened up my mind just by having this conversation already as to the understanding of RHD, because my viewers, in the first episode of the podcast, I shared about my struggles with mental health, and similar to what you encountered, like feeling alone, and then after getting the support, you kind of like open up, and then you kind of help others after you come out of the situation, and then you know what the experience has been like, so you are equipped to help others in similar situations. So I kind of like feel that that connection with you, and it's so interesting, and I'm so proud of you that you are actually talking about RHD and just advocating for that, and then like creating a dialogue so that people get to understand and know more about the disease, and there's help in Fiji for patients.
So it's like a ripple effect. Everything we do in life is a ripple effect. Somebody has gone through it, they teach you, you learn, you create the space, you teach someone else.
Right.
And it continues from there. And that's how we create awareness. We share it to one person shares it to another. It's just word by mouth. Sometimes we take the word by mouth phrase in a different way, like kakase, what we would say, or gossiping. But then we can also use it for different ways. It's like creating awareness. Having a conversation, having a good conversation about issues that we go through. If you don't talk about it, if you don't start somewhere, it will never get done. And so that's why we've created this foundation, this organization, just creating a safe space and encouraging other heart patients and other people that are going through some sort of disease to keep moving, keep striving for the best, and don't give up.
Very, very wise words, Jonathan. Now, you're part of the Revolution movement.
Yes.
How has your faith played a role in your journey, especially during tough times?
So like I said in the beginning, no one is perfect, doing life with Jesus. So the Revolution movement is just a movement of young people from different backgrounds, different denominations.
And this is part of your church?
Yes. But then we don't like to say it's a part of our church help pave the way for
Yeah.
it.
So what?
But-
Just let our viewers know what church you go to, you attend.
yeah, I attend Equippers Church. It's an international church, just on a movement, equipping people for the life of work
Right.
through Jesus Christ. That's
Right.
basically
Right.
and yeah. So Revolution is a branch out of this, but for us, it's not about the church you come from. It's about bringing all young people together. And so the main aim here is to encourage and champion every young person to grow higher in God. And that's how it's helped my faith, is because one thing we need to understand: a lot of our young people come from broken
Yeah.
families, and they have a story.
Yeah.
And so when we come to the Revolution, it happens every Thursday at Gospel High School. But when we come to this, we have games, we praise, we worship. But then we talk about the challenges we go through. And the main thing here is to relate. Relate. So if I share a story, I've gone through something, I can relate with someone that's gone through the same thing. But then the backup to that is finding our way in Jesus. Said, no, so I've gone through that, but now look at where I am now. It's because faith in Jesus, or Jesus has helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's grown.
Yeah.
My faith has grown. But like I said, no one's perfect. It's a journey. We fall, we get back up.
Yeah.
We fall, we get back up. But the best thing about it is Jesus never leaves our side.
What's one lesson from your advocacy and leadership that you wish every young Fijian could learn?
I think that you're not alone. You're not alone in the fight. My heart, like for youth, I'm more for the youth of this nation.
Yes.
And I see the issues that our youths go through. And I've gone through my fair share of that. But then the main thing is we are not alone. There are people out there that are waiting for us to just talk about it. The main thing is the idea of Fiji, because we're such a traditional and cultural, society, young people's voices are kind of suppressed.
Yeah.
No one cares about your feelings.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
But that's something I want to change. It's just inspiring our young people. Speak up. If you don't speak, nothing will happen. People don't have the mind to read through you and know what you're going through. Some of them do. Because like for me, with the revolution, I know when one of the revolutions coming in and they're not in the right,
You sense that something is wrong.
And they do it the same for me. When I come in and I'm stressed from work or something like that, they know.
Yeah.
But then if you don't talk about it, nothing will happen. So just remember that you're not alone, and continue striving for the best, because you got a lot of people. They may not be close to you, you may not know them, but they're behind you, always pushing you forward.
Thank you, Jonathan. Wow, you are a young individual. Although we work together, Jonathan works in the media team.
Yeah.
Seeing and hearing this side of you is very inspiring. Like, it kind of like encourages me to continue with goals and what I aspire to do and impact society and community with. So you continue doing what you're doing, because I can see some great leadership qualities in you, and I think the Prime Minister of Fiji will be coming from the province of Tailevu soon.
Well, you're never too late. You're never too late to start somewhere. And you're as young as you feel.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, we're going to take another short break. We'll allow you to fill up your cups of teas, get a refreshment, and we'll see you straight after this commercial. Now, Jonathan, let's talk about your career and future aspirations.
Okay.
So you're now with Resonance Media. So you're with the fun team as a branding and digital marketing officer. What excites you most about this role? Be honest. Even though I'm your work colleague, be honest. What excites you most about
What
this role?
excites me is that when I come to the office in the morning, there's food. Sorry. No, what excites me is I get to create a network and I get to meet new people.
Yeah.
And that's a part of my political aspiration
Yeah.
is creating a network when I'm young.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's interesting how we met, because we met through a colleague of ours who works at Resonance Media. You'll know her as the famous kids show host on Fiji TV, the iconic Ateva Lendua. This was during the 2024 Hibiscus Festival, because Ateva had to put together a team of individuals to help her team in the sponsorship side and events management for Hibiscus. And so you came in as one of her team members, and that's how we got to meet. And so during the festival, I kept on observing how Jonathan was just so consistent with what roles and work that he was given and tasks. And so you really stood out. And I was like, if there was any opportunity that was going to open at Resonance, I was going to ensure that, I was going to tell Ateza, because she knew you better at the time, to approach you. And so fast forward, there was an opportunity, there's an opening, and then I said to Ateza, I said, remember that kid, the term that I used from Hibiscus, Jonathan? He would be great for this role. And you've come in and you've just been like a firecracker, of a fireball of energy, entertaining everyone and just bringing in that positive spirit every day. Yeah, that's great. You've expressed interest in politics and international affairs. We spoke a little bit about politics earlier. If you could change one thing for Fiji's youth today, what would it be?
Education.
What particularly education in particular, like what sort of change?
A whole reform in the education system. I'm not talking about digital and going into that AI thing. Hopefully would come once I come into government, would already be installed. But reforming the education system in the sense where there is more activities than they are sitting in a four-walled room with a board in front of them and a person yelling out from the front. Because at Marist, this is something I saw, is that when kids go out, even though the teachers fear the distractions and stuff, but when the kids go out to do classes outside, they learn more and they capture more than what they do in the classroom.
So when you say outside, you mean like field trips?
Field trips, or just basically going and sitting under the tree and doing classes, because that's where they feel free, And the mindset of boys, and this is something we say in our families, frontal lobe is not, we do this, it's still maturing. So when the boys are in a classroom, the main mindset that comes to them is that, okay, I'm confined, I'm a prisoner. Okay, I have to listen to the orders coming. But then once the bell rings for recess and lunch, I'm the first one out. But then when you go into classes outside, they don't want class to stop. They just want to keep having classes. But not only that, is having more activities. If a student a class is doing a case study on something, why don't we, give them the opportunity to go out? Go and see for themselves. Not reading the book. Go see for themselves. Have more field trips, more classes that are based on the lessons they're learning outside, that they learn better. Yeah, and then come into the digital platform and stuff. Students, I think one of the issues here is the teachers marking their book every fortnight and then notes are not done.
Right.
And that's where we have to get in the hard work and stuff like that. But that's, there has to be a digital reform as well, where students are able to bring in their laptops. And I see it at a high school level. Some of the high schools allow that because there's projects that students have to do at senior level. But yeah, it's just education.
Yeah.
Education.
It's funny you talk about education, because over time it has really changed. Because when I was back in high school, this is in the 90s, and I went to the rival school of Marist Brothers High School, which is Silver Grammar School. There was our curriculum at the time, like, and how we got to study, and we were taught to become more passionate in the subjects that we took. I guess because we weren't in the digital age. There was I remember at the time we had a subject that was like computer, and those that were interested in computer would study computer. And for those of us, I loved food, so I studied food technology because I was able to create food and eat the food that I created, and I was always fascinated by the food in France. So when you in back in that time, we had to like do for our final grading for sixth form, we had to do a project based on one of the countries. So I had to do a cuisine, and my cuisine was all French. So I get to invite two guests who I get to serve my meal, and then at the end of the day they grade it. So those sort of things, which is what we did. I'm not sure if they do that in school these days. And we did field trips. We used to do, especially during like our English classes. Like I remember our teachers used to take us outdoors, and we'd do like reading and questions, and we used to have physical education where we'd go outside. When I was in primary school, I went to Holy Trinity Anglican School, and we used to have PE, short form for physical education, and our teacher at the time, Mr. Dixon, used to get us to do dance exercise. So we used to perform to like all these 90s hits, Pump Up the Jam, and it was just such a fun time for us to be at school. And it was, I guess, for us millennials, we actually found school like we were passionate about our studies and how we viewed school. Would you say that's the same now for your generation?
No. School is more like sentencing more than something you have to be passionate about.
Yeah.
I think the idea is parents send their kids to school so that parents can have that 8 hours to themselves.
Right.
But if students just don't want to go to school, there's no reinforcement that you have to be in school. Students can just stay. And some teachers follow up, which is the good thing, but then some teachers just couldn't care less. But yeah, education is not the same.
Yeah. So that's something that you will definitely change, because I was in the same sort of school years as your mom.
Yeah.
So we both experienced similar
and I've also heard it from my mom. And the main thing is just to make education more exciting and something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Now, fast forward 10 years.
Yes.
What's the dream? Where is Jonathan Lord, and what is he doing?
10 years. Still, I think I would still be creating my network. But the idea I have is, so I have goals.
Yeah.
So the small goal is to be Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that, they look at me and say, that's the small goal. I say...
Because Prime Minister, don't you have a certain term? Is it 3-4 years? And then you...
And that's going to be a very exciting 3 or 4 years when I'm in office, because a lot of things going to change. Speak
it into existence. I love the confidence, and I love the faith.
But yeah, so that was the smaller dream. Medium dream is to be one of the heads at the Pacific Island Forum.
Wow.
And then the bigger dream is to be the first Fijian Pacific Island to be the Secretary General of the United Nations.
Oh, wow.
So that's the goals and the dreams. But yeah, in the next 10 years, I want to do politics, so just creating network and diplomatic ties with other countries and just strengthening it.
That is great, Jonathan. I'll give you the same advice that was given to me when I was working in the television industry. And so when I worked at My TV, my CEO, Pastor Rachel Ivulono, who's also part of the New Methodist Church, one thing that she always advised me was to always make a list and write down things that you want to achieve. Write your list down, because when you write it down, it sort of makes it become almost real.
Yeah.
And then you start praying. Pray once, ask God to bless that list. And then as you start praying from the first time you write that list down. Start thanking God that whatever you put into that list is going to happen. It's all part of practicing faith. And people will hear this and they'll be like, oh, I mean, just writing stuff down, like how is it going to work? But like speaking from experience, I've created lists and it has blown my mind, like how, like you write stuff down, you pray about it, and it just work.
Yeah.
Like like you just see it coming to, like you just see the reality of all this, of your faith. So it's all about faith. So I would definitely encourage you, and for anyone else that's watching and listening, create lists because it's powerful and they definitely will become a reality. So when you are at the UN, please, I'm already asking you. I would definitely love to have an invitation to come in, be in the front row, having a cup of tea.
I'll get resonance media to do the whole PR.
Now let's have some fun rapid fire questions, just so our viewers can know a bit more fun side to Jonathan Lord.
Yeah.
You can answer in one word or in a sentence.
Okay.
One song that always lifts your mood.
One song. I think it's oh my gosh, there's a lot, but I'll choose one. It's, early 2000.
Yeah.
So it's Akon, Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the beats and it.
Right. Okay, that's good. Interesting. And you, because I sit next to you in the office and I overhear your music playlist.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if have you heard of that term, young person with an old soul?
Yes.
Because your music selection is pretty much similar to my music selection, which is like the 80s and the 90s, and I like, soul, R&B.
Yeah. My family has labeled me that because ever since growing up, because there was one time in when I was growing up where my mother and all her sisters, well, except for one of my aunties that's in Australia now.
Yeah.
But the other two that's here, we all stayed in one house with my grandmother. And in every house you had a radio. And my grandmother always played Gold FM on all the radios.
Right.
And so if she's standing in the kitchen, she can hear the radio from our house.
Right.
If she's standing in the laundry room, she can hear the radio from my auntie's house.
Yeah.
If she's in her house, she hears radio. So that from there.
So your family do they love Gold FM?
They love good music.
Yeah.
My mom then moved to Legend FM.
Yeah.
Because Legend FM plays, and I love Legend FM because it plays all the hits. Like you have the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000, the latest local legends and stuff like that. And so that's all it is. And it's just listening to good music that actually have a story. Yeah. And it's not just beats.
Yeah.
And so that's
Speaking of Gold FM, here's a interesting fact that I guess you didn't know. I used to be the breakfast host at Gold FM during my radio days back in the days.
I knew that.
I used to do the breakfast show, and man, those were interesting days. But waking up at like 3 a.m. for transport pickup time, because I live all the way in Fiji's food capital. No, sorry, I was always the first one to get picked up for work. So
well, I don't know whether my grandmother was just having favoritism or something.
I think it must have been like the announcers' voices, because back in the days there used to be like iconic voices on that on that particular radio station, such as Marianne Simmons.
Yes.
We used to have V.T. Brown, Miss Bernadette Nganilau.
Fun fact is V.T. Brown is one of my aunties, and another media personality, that's my grand-uncle, is Carl Turangaiviu.
Right.
And he does the news for Fiji One.
Right.
But he used to be in the radio industry.
Great. So they have that voice.
Yes.
And the face for television, because some people like to say, you have the face for radio.
And so where I get the talkative energy from is from my mother's side.
Which is good. And speaking of which, I think now when we were talking, I said, your uncles, the Vatumbuas, but that's from your mom's side, right? Not from your dad's side. Your dad is the Lord's family, and your mom's the Vatumbuas. And it's your mom's brothers who are quite known in the sporting arena here in Fiji.
They were quite known in general.
Yes.
Just say that.
Now, your go-to comfort food.
Oh, the Chinese steam buns
Yes.
in the Motor City.
Right.
That's my go-to
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
It's just 250. If you are in the Motor City, I think rethink your budget. You don't want to buy a $13 combination meal. Just get 2 steam buns and you're full. So that's what I get.
Okay. That's good. That's interesting. Not Mbila, since you're from Televu.
I love Eevee.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Mbila.
Okay. All right. The smell. Is it the smell that puts you off?
The smell and the
Texture. Right. Okay. Your dream travel destination.
Oh, dream travel destination. Damn. I love to visit Dubai.
Any reason why you'd like to go to
Because
Dubai?
I want to see how they built their golden empire from,
Yeah.
a small buildings and stuff
Yeah.
to skyscrapers
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, floating gardens. I want to see all that.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting city to visit. That's on my bucket list too. A quote you live by.
Oh my gosh. I saw one yesterday and
I'm putting you on the spot with these
Yes.
questions.
resonated with me yesterday, but I think I'll just use the famous quote by the smart, intelligent man, Jonathan Lord.
Yes.
Humble, humble, humble.
Humble, humble, humble.
Yes.
I love that saying. That's great. Now, one person, dead or alive, you'd love to have dinner with.
Family or just in general?
Anyone in general.
Oh, I would love to speak to Ratu Sir Kamise Semara.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a bit of family ties with my maternal grandmother.
Yeah.
But I would like to really sit down and have dinner with him and really get his idea of how he came into power. Because from prime minister to president, first prime minister to
Yeah.
second president of Fiji.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And one of the forefathers that really founded the nation of Fiji, eh?
Yeah,
Ratu
modern day
Sekam
Fiji,
Sesemara, yeah. And it's interesting that you mention him because going back to when he was prime minister, this is before he became president, the leaders in the time that I was growing up, they were so well recognized, even though we didn't have digital media, like it was through traditional media. So I remember him as the prime minister. There was the late Ratu Sepenanganila, who was the president of Fiji. And then we had Ratu Sir George Dakambau, the late Ratu Sir George Dakambau, who was the governor general of Fiji at the time. And those were inspirational leaders. And just the way they governed, there was something really special about their leadership. And especially Ratu Sekam Sesemara.
Can I add one more?
Yes.
So another person, he's dead, but I want to have a conversation with is my grandmother's great-grandfather, Gustav Mara Hennings. And I want to really find out how our family came into power, how our ties in the country happened, how we are related to royalty here in Fiji,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, how he built the politics and business,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So they were the first German consul to Fiji, and they started the business and politics here.
Yeah.
So I would like to
Pick
see
his
where-
brains and just to get a bit more history, like some facts.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting selection. So, Jonathan, if you could send a message to young people out there struggling with their own battles, whether it be RHD, whether it be mental health issues, or any sort of struggles, like right now as we are recording this, and the crisis in Fiji right now is we have a drug epidemic, and there's so many young people that are struggling with addiction, and then we also have individuals that are struggling with the increase in the cases of HIV, and these are all health related. They could be self-doubt or challenges.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
For the drugs, kids going into drugs is simply because there is no attention given to them at home. Simply that. And for the HIV and teenage pregnancy that's ongoing, there is a lack of awareness and education on using protection. The thing here is we keep on telling them you're not supposed to have sex at a young age, all these things. But we have to be realistic about this is that sex will happen whether we like it or not. Okay, that's how your hormones are programmed. But the thing here is there needs to be more education on using protection, not just putting up a flyer where you can pass in the car and just see it because it looks nice, but more action out there in the country, advocating and educating on using protection. And so my encouragement to every young person out there is don't give up. I know you heard this from a lot of people and you would be irritated by it, but take my story for an example. Never give up. Keep trusting God and keep moving forward, because there are other people out there that are wanting to push you forward to reach your full potential.
I really like that, Jonathan. Now, lastly, what's next for you, and where can people follow your journey?
What's next for me?
Don't tell me you're resigning, because we will not air this episode.
No. I love my job. I love where I love the environment. But what's next for me is, locking in now and realizing that you're no longer a child anymore and it's time for independence. But just working on becoming an adult. That's about
working
it.
towards your goals and the list that we talked about and achieving
all of
that.
Creating more awareness in the heart, space on heart disease, making sure that everybody has a voice and being the change our youths of this nation need and being their voice.
That's really good. And so for anyone that wants to connect with you on social media, how do they find you?
So my social media is an open book. Like Instagram, you have that
Follow.
Follow. Sometimes you can make the account private, but mine is all public. So if you are on Facebook, you can add friend to me at Jonathan James Lord, or on Instagram at jj_.nansen.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then you connect with people, and then you'll be able to share.
If you have questions,
and answer
if you need
questions,
encouragement,
right?
I'm always open.
And then where is the Revolution? If for those that are watching and they would be interested to attending one of the Revolution hangouts, where would they come to and what day?
Revolution happens every Thursday at Gospel High School. We have e-group, or e-group is just a space where we can share our issues but find the solution, which is Jesus. That happens at 4:30 at Gospel High School. And then straight after that, we have Revolution Night, which from 6 to 8. Parents, if you're having issues with your children, don't push them away. Why don't you send them to the Revolution? And young people that are watching this, if you have nothing to do on a Thursday night, if you're stressed from school.
And these are young people that are living in the Central Division, Suva and the Nosori corridor.
If your parents are keen on dropping, if you stay as far as Peck Harbor or as far as Nosori, if your parents are keen on picking you after that, please come to the Revolution at Gospel High School from 6 to 8.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Wise words, and you just really inspired me just with your story and just with the journey that you're on and the journey that you are going to be jumping on. I know you're going to be, doing so many amazing things with your goal to heading to the United Nations and having me as your publicist on the side.
Yes.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode with our special guest, Jonathan Lord. For our young viewers, we hope you got some encouragement from the messages that we shared. Please like and share this episode, follow our YouTube page, and share this podcast with anyone that you know that will feel inspired. And we look forward to seeing you again in our next episode next week. Pinakbakalevo.